Buenos días a todos. Es un placer para mí estar.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to moderate the first panel of the third Agtech Congress in the framework of the 28th Aapresid Congress, Siempre Vivo, Siempre Verde, forever alive, forever green. This panel is composed by 4 professionals on different areas in our ecosystems. Why he will answer why do we have Agtech in Argentina? It's a great pleasure to be here today because I remember the first steps, the first movements of this organization with meetings with public and private companies and inviting startups around the country. And so we really appreciate that the Aapresid gives us the space, the Aapresid Congress gives us the space to speak. What are we going to learn? What are we going to see today? We are going to have plenary meetings. We will talk about innovation, about the REM work dealing with weeds. All these technologies and practices are available for the community. Our objective is to look constantly for alternatives to have a better comparative and competitive advantage abroad from the point of view of quality and processes. Each panelist will make a short introduction to answer to these questions. Remember that you can ask questions in our chat sections. I won't take longer in this introduction, and remember to use the hashtag Congreso Aapresid to participate. I'm welcoming all experts and panelists, Francisco, Javier, Bernardo, and Pablo. Thank you for being here and thank you for your commitment to this. The first presentation will be Francisco Bechara's presentation. He's an expert in strategic affairs in Santa Fe. He has a degree in business science and an MBA in the EIS School of Business. He works on the strategic agenda of the province. We have our company Aapresid through digital transformation, technology, and knowledge. They try to implement programs with the collaboration of the public and private sector. He's responsible for designing the technological industrial park in Bariloche. Francisco Wegman, why we have La Agtech in Argentina. Thank you, Julian. Buen dia, everybody. I'm so glad, so happy to join this valuable Congress from Santa Fe. It's a very good thing that this happens. Let's see, Julian. You introduced me as strategic affairs in Santa Fe. Imagine when we started to prepare this block, imagine how difficult it is to implement strategies in Argentina. It is a sort of fantasy. It's Harry Potter almost. But this is exactly what we try to do, to implement and develop strategies. This is what we try in the province together with the governor. But we are using a new logics, what we call emergent strategy. What does this mean? In Argentina, we think with our heads, but we are looking down to our feet. But we need to think of actions. We need to promote strategic projects today, but thinking of the future. We have to leave behind mega strategic plans. It's nothing from the academic exercise point of view, but I think that we need to really bring things into practice. And this is exactly the case in Santa Fe. We don't invent anything. It's emergent strategy. We sit down with players that are already working in the city of Rosario and its surroundings. We have been working with many of the founders of Aapresid, other players, people from the university, the Austral University, the grain exchange, the grain board. The governor, the province understand that this is that we have to do, that this is our strategy. We know that Santa Fe is a rich province, is full of people that have come here and they have worked very hard. They have introduced their machinery. But what else are we expected to do? We think that Agtech is part of that future, and it's perfectly compatible with the COVID reality. And this is an interesting aspect because Agtech is technology is a logic that is not impacted much by the COVID situation. On the contrary, the Agtech technology or the Agtech logics fits very well with this. And why is this very important? For these reasons, but especially there is an ecosystem that is still grows in the province. And so we are sort of spearheading this evolution leap. The role of the state, of the government, has to become prominent. We need to generate coordination mechanisms. So this is very important. The government, the state has to be very important to support and to leverage all these processes. The conception of state is very big. This concept of state is more than 200 years old, and we have to translate this into practice with intelligence. In the case of Santa Fe, all this potential of Agtech is huge with the private sector, with the ecosystem. We had contact with the Agtech from Israel, with the people from our province, and we started to talk and to see what were the challenges, what was the pain in all this. And the diagnosis comes up immediately. Let's stop doing mega diagnosis. Let's take action. And so we are working on three main issues to leverage Agtech. One is ecosystems. We need to be better coordinated at the provincial and national level. We need to become more competitive. We need to be known around the world. The next topic is financing or funding. And the third is infrastructure and equipment. We need to think of patents, and we need to monitor this process. The fourth is business environment and regulation. We understand that the province, together with the cities, need to work together. We work with the mayor in Rosario, and we know that many things can be done. And then it's about talent. Talent is something very broad. We include the universities, training students in labs that have to do with the technology, not so much mathematics and that. And finally, adoption of technology to be the center of our process. We know that in the rural areas, we can use internet, and with technology, you can go inland or a town in the province, for instance, a pork producer. But if this establishment does not have a sensor to track the process, the raising of that of that pork production, they won't have much opportunity. So we are spearheading this process from the province. Trying to take care of these strategic matters. I don't know if I talked too long, but I just wanted to give you an overview. Thank you for this introduction, because now we are going to continue with the next panelists, and so you are sort of paving the way to the next presentation. Leonardo Mirete, the youngest in the group, he's an tireless entrepreneur. So I won't compete with Javier and Pablo. You take the position you wish. He's an tireless entrepreneur. He has been supporting this process generously, I may say. He led Brocal company. He's working hard with passion that is sort of contagious. And this is he is related to the area of agribusiness, as he has always been. The company is an agribusiness company, and his dream is to help other companies, other startups to continue growing. I had a pleasure to share with him many situations. Our crossroads came together. So I think that it's very interesting to listen to his vision, and I want to tell all young entrepreneurs that are looking at us now. I'm sure that he will help you open the way towards this business. Javi, good morning, and thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Juli, for your words. Now, really, I have to live up to your expectations. I I share the same feelings. That happens with me, with you, and with other people. That's why this is called an ecosystems, because we share the systems. To complete what Franco has said, he set the points very clearly, because he talked about the role of the private sector, of the public sector. We need to allow the private sector to do things, and the government, the state, has to participate in those places where the private sector cannot act. And this takes me to the dynamic of an ecosystem, which is a new buzzword that is being heard a lot. Probably the audience must be aware of this. An ecosystem is the coordination, the operation of a group, a non-homogeneous group. On the contrary, it is a sort of multidisciplinary group, uh, different players, non-profit organizations, the government, investors, entrepreneurs, businessmen. So all these players make up the ecosystems. Fran was talking about the role of the government of the states, and I'm very fond of that concept because a central point for the system to work is that each player has to focus on what they do best and try to do it better and not duplicating things. Uh, things that are done by somebody else. And it requires understanding, requires coordination, requires some methodology. And if we think in any ecosystem in the world, there is literature that talks about ecosystems and talk about successful ecosystems. There is also another point that has to do that forget about our egos. There are some sectors or some people that want to do everything and cover everything, and there the ego comes into play. But we have to forget about that. What I believe is, why do we have Agtech in Argentina? These are the two sides of a coin. We have all the elements so that Argentina, Santa Fe, and Rosario in particular, uh, which is the largest player in agri-food, but we need to work better on methodology and coordinator. Um, uh, Trying to consider whether we clearly understand what our goal is, what our actions should be. It's obvious that our goal is towards that direction. And talking about farming and agriculture, we don't intend to share this with the agro-industrial sector. We don't intend to give them a formula, but rather since I started with this 5 years ago, is that the farming sector has proved to be resilient and they are ready for collaborations. We have seen evidence about that. They have an example of the qué groups. They work in a similar way. They share everything in the company, or in each, the company of each, or the undertaking of each producer of growth. That does not happen in all sectors. This is a specific sector that has to deal all the time with new dynamics, new variables. When we are set in a specific situation, new things come and change everything. This is specific in the farming sector. What I mean is that I'm not coming here to tell you how you have to do things. I'm just want to call on you and remind you that you are already doing this. Just I want to leverage all the good things that we are having. It's a unified vision. We are bringing together different players, international, national corporations, entrepreneurs, talents, companies, and a very competitive level worldwide of our farming sector. We are here together to achieve these accomplishments. What I feel passionate about this is that technologies and startups go beyond the political and economic cycles. Whenever the farming sector achieves something, there's no union, there's nothing that can stop them. We are having in Argentina a specific political and economic matrix for the past 50 years. So I think that we are here to change the things that we don't like. I thank the panel that also represent different visions, different sectors of the chain.
Muchísimas gracias, Verde.
Thank you, Bernie. You have given us some tips that supplement Francisco's vision for our discussion later on. Now I'll give the floor to Pablo Scarafioni. Good morning, Pablo. It's been a real pleasure to meet you. Pablo is the General Director with Cargill, a leading company in the conventional agricultural sector. He's operator in the ports in the Rosario area. He has had a career in the corporate world, so he can contribute a very interesting point of view. But basically, he's an entrepreneur who will share with us a lot about his position and his view of the ecosystem in this new world, new Agtech world, which is not so new for many of us. Welcome, Pablo. Good morning, Julian. Good morning to the other members of the panel, and it's my pleasure to greet everyone. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm honored to participate in this Aapresid conference. I really respect Aapresid a lot. So what is the point of view of a big, well-established company in this world of technology, in this digital world, in this active world? Cargill is a company that beyond another pet food company and wet milling company, it's mostly devoted to soybean milling, grain export, and grain production and services to our customers. So that's the first question. We're continuously trying to see how we can provide a better service to our customers, to farmers, and that's where we see the possibility of sharing something with the startups. How can you combine the potential of a big company with the skills developed by these innovating, fast and efficient companies to better serve our clients? And this is what we try to do. I'd like to start by talking about the global outlook, that tension between the established companies and the new startups bringing innovation and a fresh view of the market. There is a disruption theory that says that there are the incumbent companies, established companies with their own strength, and then you also have the disrupting companies, and you see kind of a chemical process, and it comes a point where incumbent companies eventually disappear and the disrupting companies take over. So you may say it's not nice to be an incumbent player. So one of the things we are continuously trying to see is what can we do ourselves as a company to continue being a leading company, but adopting that transformation capacity so that we will be able to keep being relevant and a leading company. That's a huge challenge because beyond what people working in those companies may want, there is always something related to the structural part, to the processes, to the way in which the companies are made up, and that may imply a risk looking forward when these new companies show up. There are two things we are trying to focus on. First, creating innovation spaces within the company where people working in those companies may have a startup-like behavior. We call those blue spaces. We've learned some terminology from the theory. So those groups working as startups within our company have the possibility of bypassing certain processes, approvals, etc., and getting a budget quickly to test those ideas, do an MVP, see if it works, and if it works, do quick implementation, and then fight for budgets and so on and so forth. Because what would happen at the beginning was that when we launched that process, it would have to go through all the authorization machine, and it was usually stopped. So we tried to open up the door for those projects to be implemented quickly. Once the idea was tested, if it works, let's move forward. If it doesn't work, let's go back and rework. That's the first step. And the second step, which I think is very interesting and for me personally quite stimulating from an intellectual point of view, is we opened up the company to cooperate with startups, to learn from them, to exchange ideas, opinions, and if possible, if there is a product, if there is a business case, do something together. There are many people in the company who are actively participating in the entrepreneur environment, in the Agtech environment. We try to support projects and we try to find combinations that will help us launch products that will in turn help us to provide better service to our customers. Obviously, it's a very local thing, but every business unit in Cargill is doing something similar in the different countries, and the goal is to generate the same type of behavior. Obviously, there is a corporate structure thing that's very difficult to take down, but as I've already said, we are trying to generate those competitive spaces. Now I'll go to the Argentinian ecosystem. The Argentinian ecosystem depends on the global scenario. Obviously, nothing new there. Digitalization, technology, and that's the line it's following. What I see after discussions with people such as Verde and other accelerators we're in touch with, I see there is creativity, innovation, good ideas. I think that's great. I'm not saying it's unique to Argentina, because sometimes Argentina thinks we're unique and we're not. But I see an extremely positive behavior. There are many things happening in Argentina related to businesses that implies combining technology, innovation, entrepreneurship. So you asked why? Well, I think it's a combination of talent and a very solid and competitive business. If you consider our different business areas in Argentina, it's very difficult to find a full business that is competitive globally. Agriculture is competitive. If we were able to combine the talent of our entrepreneurs with the potential of Argentinian agriculture, I think that's a very powerful tool. And the good news is that this current world of technology and digitalization breaks down entry barriers, economies of scale, investment capacity of big companies or companies in developed countries would make it very difficult to compete in those markets in the past. But today, that opportunity is there. Being able to have large scale companies or low rate loans, having a stable legal framework is very important for Argentina. In this digital work, we don't need that so much, so there is an increasing number of opportunities for Argentina and for any global companies. If I had to give a very small piece of advice to the youth, I would say start learning English. Talent has an opportunity because entry barriers from the point of view of investment scale, etc., have gone down significantly. And there is something else which is very interesting. Bernie mentioned it, and I think Francisco did as well. Being able to work and combine different parts. You have to be humble. You have to know that you can't be perfect in everything you do. So you have to generously get all the links in the chain together. Nobody can do things on his and her own. I was able to participate in a hackathon in the Rosario Stock Exchange, and you see young people are really passionate to do things, but they still have a lot to learn. And there is an important role to be played by the Rosario Stock Exchange, by Aapresid. They have to support those young people in that process. I do believe in this. I think that part of the Argentinian future lies in being able to generate 20 or 30 companies that are competitive globally and that are the result of innovation. That is key. I would also like to talk about risks and challenges. It's not a minor thing for us in Argentina. Even though technology takes the barriers down, there are economic issues, economic volatility. I don't need to talk too much about this, but I've seen a trend that is a concern to me. Many people who have developed businesses here have left. Well, this is a global world. One of the secrets is to scale business and turn them global in order to be successful. But I'm concerned about the fact that companies do not want to settle here. They settle outside and they start making use of the local talent. And I'm not being protectionist. I'm talking from the opposite point of view. We have to be able to create the right environment for those people to really want to work here, to do things here, to develop things in the country so that the talent they have will stay at least partly in our country, because we have to be realistic and accept that if we want to be global players, then we also have to accept that our company should be global as well. I didn't want to neglect this. I'm pretty sure Pablo will also talk about this. It was really rewarding to meet Francisco and see what the public sector thinks about this. Finally, I think Argentina is a huge opportunity over the last 50 years. Without getting into political discussions, this has been one of the largest economic and political failures. If we consider where we were 50 years ago and where we are now in relative terms, we've clearly gone backwards. This is an opportunity to gain space, to move forward, but we do need to create the right environment for that talent to flourish. And I think that organizations such as the Rosario Stock Exchange, Aapresid, and CREA set the example They have generous attitudes towards the ecosystem, and they do try to help so that that talent will flourish. Then companies, the public sector, we all have to play a role to support this process so that we will have a solid and competitive process, because today in the world everything is happening very quickly, and if we are too slow, then we will miss the opportunities. There is a huge opportunity here with some major risks as well. But I do believe in the innovating ecosystem. I do believe in the startups ecosystem, and I think the Agtech is the best opportunity for that ecosystem to really become a global player in its niche. Let's go for that. Thank you, Pablo, for your summary. Let's now go and listen to Javier Palatnik. We always need science in these discussions, and Javier is a researcher at CONACYT. I've just realized that there are only people from Santa Fe at this table, but for me. We can feel the local thing here in Aapresid. Javier is director of the Institute of Molecular Biology in Rosario. It is an organization that reports to CONICET and Rosario National University, and he is a scientist who specializes in genomics, molecular biology, and agrobiotechnology. Now, where people talk without too much knowledge, it's going to be rewarding to listen to Javier and clear some doubts. Javier spent 6 years in the US and Germany. He came back to Argentina to keep doing research on the molecular organisms that help plants to develop so as to generate modifications that will increase crop yields with the corresponding strategic value so that pesticide use can be reduced and why not yield can be improved with the right environmental conditions. Javier, it's a real pleasure to meet you. It's a real honor. Thank you for participating, and I know it's going to be very interesting to listen to your opinion about why Agtech in Argentina. Well, thank you very much for your invitation. Thank you, and thank you, Bernardo. It's an honor and a real pleasure for me to participate in this Congress, in a meeting organized by Aapresid. This is very important. As Julian said, we work at the green building, the building you see behind me, the research institution with 5,000 square meters of lab facilities, where we try to meet three goals. On the one hand, do research on biological sciences, to move forward technological projects, and to educate high-quality human resources. In order to do this, the IVR has an infrastructure and high-tech, last-generation equipment, and it plays a very important role in our region. And we have highly qualified staff. As a result of these scientific activities, even though academic research is the most important part, we've always paid attention to technological development. So on the one hand, we have technology-based companies whose work is based on what our scientists do. And we also have a portfolio of patents that cover different areas, from agrobiotechnology, agriculture, pharmaceutical sector, with different scopes, whether it's affecting yields, stress tolerance, or new methods for genic projects. Besides that, there is a huge effort made to train high quality human resources. There are 250 doctors and over 180 PhD professionals. Once those human resources have gone through the education stage, they usually move on to the private sector, and many of them have implemented their own projects. There is something very interesting here. Traditionally, the percentage of students who've gone through our institution and who have eventually gone to the productive sector has been around 20-25%, but this has changed over the last years. That percentage has reverted, and today most students in our institute want to work in the productive sector and become entrepreneurs. We wanted to understand this new situation, and at the IVR we have generated an incubator for technological projects that may be implemented in the same ecosystem we're part of. These new projects are implemented in an environment that already provides the right equipment to implement the project. Those new startups do not have to buy the equipment. They can use the equipment that is available in our institutions, and they can even interact with the different researchers with expertise in their subject matters. And this way they are able to grow in a protected environment in a sustainable and easy way. And once that project proves its results, that's when they can go to the next stage. I think this is something very valuable. It's been reproduced in several countries all over the world. A technological project with a strong experimental component is pushed by startups that started in scientific campus. So, in order to conclude and summarize the message, what I can say from an academic standpoint is that right now there is a good number of technological projects that will lead to new projects through patents, through the generation of startups. Those projects are there. There is a real willingness by doctors and scholarship holders to really carry out those projects. And thirdly, the academic institutions, I've already mentioned IVR, but I'm pretty sure there are many others. These organizations are willing to support professionals in the first stages until they are able to go to the next stage. I think those three factors are very important. And in order to conclude, and I'd like to mention the weakness we see. And the weakness is that space that we see between discovery, academic innovation, and the productive sector. We see two spaces that are clearly defined, that do their thing separately, but we have to see how we can take that discovery to the productive sector, because very frequently that discovery per se is not able to attract venture capital investors. And that's where I see a weakness, and that's where we need a multidisciplinary approach, because researcher on his or her own cannot become an entrepreneur. Well, they can, but it's not easy. So that's when we need an interdisciplinary team with academic and business contributions so that that transition from the academic sector to the productive sector can take place. And the role of the public sector is very important here because very frequently we need the support of the public sector. We need the public sector to support entrepreneurs until scientific and technological development is achieved and until that development is attractive enough to attract investors. That's my message. Thank you very much for having invited me. It's a real pleasure to be able to participate in this Congress.
Thank you, Javier. Very interesting, all your comments. I would like to make a short summary of what each of you had said and how things match. I want to thank Corteva for this space as part of Aapresid Congress. If I have to quote the words that have been repeated, apart from ecosystem, generosity, talent, innovation, doing things together, leaving egos aside, work for everybody, that were the most common comments in this roundtable. It seems that this roundtable that brings us together in this past few years is the way towards development. And this allows our communities, our people, cities, and the provinces and the country as a whole to take a leadership position. We are the most sustainable farmers in the world, and we have the opportunity not only to say this, but to show this thanks to this technology. The Santa Fe government is playing a role for some years now, and I celebrate the fact that in spite of the change in the administration, this didn't change at all, and it's even more active. I would like to open the floor to for discussion. Francisco, after listening to all the presentations in this panel, how do you believe that we could leverage the coming of entrepreneur in the Santa Fe province, Santa Fe government, to promote innovation? You talked about these important points: ecosystem, financing, infrastructure. We need to promote a business environment and regulations. So in what way a farmer, an entrepreneur, or the son or the son or daughter of a farmer can come to this action? I would go back to what Bernie and Javier said. We have four words. The science, as Julian said, sometimes is far from facts and from reality. The basic science, we need to allow science to research, and also we have to motivate scientists. Then we have the entrepreneur, which is starting. Then we have the small and medium-sized company that says, I've paid my taxes and now they are coming with these startups, and what about me? And then you have the action. These are not alternatives. These are things that have to be added together. Imagine that Cargill really faces challenges when it opens up. And what happens with the small groups that appeared. So it is important to motivate scientists to conduct research. How do we sustain this in time and not to drop actions? Pablo can stop being in Cargill. I can also go somewhere else, but we need to do things so as whoever comes after us continues our work. I wanted to mention two things. First, not to become an inbred group. We need to add people, men, women with different ideas. And the second thing I want to point out is the role of universities. Universities tend to look into the medium and long term. Deans stay in the university for more time, so it is important that the academic sector sort of custodies these processes and monitor this process. That's all. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Thank you very much, Francisco. I fully agree with you. I think we all think the same, and we go after the same goals. We want a better province, a better country, a better city. We want more people with more jobs, women participating and leading processes from the places. So join Aapresid, join La Magna, join learning process, contact Francisco, Javier, contact me. Let's make this a bigger country. Let's be generous. We need to be generous. We need to forgive. We need to grow. For the sake of all our communities, thank you for your time. A big hug. I hope that next year we can share an barbecue and asado in the 4th Agtech Congress.